Shalom, Kahala Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rukok Radash. Double honors my teachers, the apostles and elders of the Great Millstone. Peace and mercy to the elect who are the house of David reborn again in this generation. And Shalom to the 130 Yasharallah, who today are known as the Negroes, Latinos, and Native Indians, who before losing their true heritage were known as, and still are, the true Hebrew Israelites of the Holy Bible. In today's lesson, we're going to talk about America's news and how it's pretty much just a bunch of propaganda. But before we get into this article, let's go ahead and read the scripture. This is Jeremiah 49:10. But I have made Esau bare, I have uncovered his secret places, and he shall not be able to hide himself. His seed is spoiled, and his brethren, and his neighbors, and he is not. And the key point here in this prophecy is that eventually, once the Lord reveals Esau's system, right? Esau being the so-called Caucasian race today, right? The same race that is in rulership and running the whole world, right? Well, the Lord would make it so that he couldn't hide himself, right? Once he's revealed, the Lord's going to make it to where he's simply just going to continue to be revealed. And it doesn't matter how much news or information he goes out, twist, stories he modified, how many reporters and celebrities and people he pays off, or just silence, he's not going to be able to hide himself, right? And this right here, this article shows that Esau's been doing a whole bunch trying to hide himself, man. So much so that it's now become apparent to the rest of the world that you can no longer trust these devils, right? When it comes to news, right? It tells you here in this article, it says, United States ranks last in global media trust, new report finds, right? And America, United States, is in the Bible referred to as Babylon the Great, right? And when you break down that word Babylon, it goes back to that word Babel, which ultimately means confusion, right? And that's why, because this place here, America, ultimately is a land of confusion. And this is why the news here just cannot be trusted. But let's read this article. It says, for years, we have been discussing the decline of journalism values with the rise of open bias in the media. Now, a newly released report from the Reuters Institute for the Study of Journalism at Oxford has found something that would have been unthinkable just a few years ago. The United States ranked dead last in media trust among 49 countries, with just 29% saying that they trusted the media. And here goes the report. Look at this, man. It says proportions that trust most news most of the time, all the markets, right? Northern Europe, right? Look at here, man. So it shows you that all these other countries, right? And UK is the worst, right? Western Europe. Over here, France is the worst. Over here, Southern Europe, Greece is the worst. Eastern Europe, Hungary is the worst, right? Africa, South Africa is the worst. See, these are all Edomite nations here, man. Predominantly Edomite empowered nations that are the worst. And why is that? Because they're changing the system, man. Look at Taiwan, right? You may say Taiwan is Moab or Chinese people out there. No. Taiwan's news is greatly influenced by the U.S. arm, which gives them the power to withstand China, right? This is why you have a very U.S.-leaning narrative over in Taiwan, man. Latin America, Argentina, right? And over here, North America, America, USA, at 29% only believe what the news has to say. This shows you, man, right, that ultimately, not only here in America, but around the world, man, a lot of people are not, believing what's being pushed on TV, because they know that that's ultimately the devil's system to push out, their lie, right? Tell a lie, television, right? So let's read. It says, the most tragic aspect is that it does not matter. The media has embraced the advocacy journalism, and anyone questioning that trend risks instant cancellation. And that's true, man. Right? Because if anybody, that has a mind watches these news shows, man, you could understand, you'll be able to recognize that they're not giving news, man. They're giving opinions, right? They're basically pushing or carrying the water for the administration or these huge corporations, or they're trying to bury, the truth, man. Just look at the examples of what, when they try to portray a Jake, right? A Southern Kingdom or Northern Kingdom Jake. Now, what do? They always call them they say that, the headlines are always skewed and misleading, right? Where instead, when there's an Edomite that goes out on a killing rampage and shit, what do? They call the shooter, a young boy, somebody who just had a bad day, right? Because these devils, they use the media as their own tool to keep them from getting in trouble. And the world is now starting to wake up to it, plain and simple. The result is a type of state media where journalists are bound to the government by ideology rather than law. The plunging level of trust reflects the loss of premier news organizations to the type of woke journalism. We have been discussing how writers, editors, commenters, and academics have embraced rising calls for censorship and speech controls, right? And this right here is ultimately what's going to come and affect this truth, right? Over in Canada, they just recently passed a law, or they're trying to pass a law over there, I believe, to make hate speech a punishable, crime up to $20,000, right? And that right there is ultimately gonna affect the truth, man. Because the Bible, even though it's the truth, this world sees it as hate, because this world is doing the exact opposite of what the Lord wants, right? And this is why these devils have purposely made certain terms like race, homosexuality, all that stuff. They made those trigger words, man, for hate, because that way they could easily, point to the Bible and call it immoral, which that's false, because anything that the Lord does, says, or is in the Bible is a moral act, right? When it's done on behalf of the Lord, right? Continuing, President-elect Joe Biden, and this should be, President Biden. This was more likely written when he was the elect, or was going to be president. President Joe Biden and his key advisors, even journalists, are leading attacks on free speech and the free press. This includes academics rejecting the very concept of objectivity in journalism in favor of open advocacy. Columbia journalism dean and New York writer Stephen Cole has denounced how the First Amendment right to freedom of speech was being weaponized, right? And what is Esau's blessing? That he shall live by the sword, right? His weaponry, right? And these devils, they weaponize everything, man. They weaponize weapons, they weaponize strategy, they weaponize food, they weaponize, storytelling, man. Right? They weaponize the news, man. These devils, these Edomites, that is their blessing, and they're using it, full spectrum, right? And it's ultimately coming to get you Negroes, Latinos, and Native Indians, right? To protect disinformation. Likewise, the University of North Carolina recently offered an academic chair to journalism to New York Times Nicole Hannah Jones, while Hannah Jones was awarded a Pulitzer Prize for her writing in the 1619 Project. She has been criticized for her role in purging dissecting views from the New York Times pages and embracing absurd anti-police conspiracy theories. All right, even waiting for the facts is viewed as unethical today by journalism professors who demand that reporters make political or social declarations through their coverage. One of the lowest moments came with the New York Times, mea culpa, for publishing an opinion column by the conservative senator. The New York Times was denounced by many of us for its future such columns. It will not publish columns for a Republican senator on protests in the United States, but it will publish columns from one of the Chinese leaders crushing protests for freedom in Hong Kong. Khan was arguing that the use of National Guard troops may be necessary to quell violent riots, noting that the historical use of this option in past protests. The option was used most recently after the Capitol riots. Right? So you see here, this is just showing how these devils, these politicians are now using the media to push out their agenda, man. They're making these news agencies, basically try to push out the lies that these politicians want the people to believe, right? That it's okay to have tanks at rallies, that it's okay to let the government come down with force, right? And that's just because that's the system that we're in now, man. See, the Lord is now bringing Babylon the Great down, and in doing so, like the brothers over, I believe they're in Mississippi, or Alabama, excuse me, say Esau right now, he's falling, man. He's falling, and it's a slow process, man. Right now, he's reaching for things while he's falling. He's like saying no. See, and all that shit that he's doing, man, all that screaming and the reaching for things, that's what's going on right now with the lockdowns, the changing of laws, the pushing out of new laws to try to, make it better for Esau, but worse for the people, right? All these things here where news is now no longer news but propaganda, this is all part of the fall of Babylon the Great. The fall of these Edomites falling out of power, man. Let's continue. Almost on the 1-year anniversary of its condemning its own publication of Cotton, the forcing out of its own editor, the New York Times published an academic columnist who previously defended the killing of conservative protesters. Over at the Washington Post this week, the newspaper promoted a columnist, Karen Atta, who last summer caused an outrage after she tweeted, "White women are lucky that we are just calling them Karens and not calling for revenge." Given this trend, it is little surprise that viewers no longer trust the media, right? And that's crazy, right? Because you see, in this case here, the truth is coming out. Because even though this lady should just be reporting the news, she came out and actually reported a popular sentiment, man, that everybody's starting to turn on these Edomites, man. And these Edomites, it doesn't matter what they're about, if it's coming against them, then they're not about it, man. This is why they're against that critical race theory. This is why they're trying to stop at nothing to stop that from coming out, because they don't want the world to know what they've been doing, right? And this is ultimately why they're doing these things, man. Like I said again, it's the fall of these Edomites and all the things that they've been doing, man. So, that's for the most part. That's all I wanted to get on this stuff. Let's go read the scripture. This is Deuteronomy 33 and 29. Happy art thou, O Israel, who is like unto thee, O people saved by Yahweh B'Shem Yashai, the shield of thy help, who is the sword of thy excellency. And thine enemies shall be found liars unto thee, and thou shalt tread upon their high places. Right? And that's ultimately what's happening, man. You see, these devils, man, these Edomites, right, in their destruction, they're falling out of power. They're going to ultimately be found to be liars, man. They're going to be found to be, hiding the truth, right? Because, you see, these devils out here, man, they know who we are. They know exactly who we are. They know that we're not Mexican, Negroes, or Native Indians. They know that we're the Israelites, right? But what has Esau done this whole time? he hasn't been telling us, man. He's been out there hiding this truth, making it as if it's crazy to think that the Negro Latinos Native Indians are the Israelites, even though it's in their own history books, their own records, showing that they have our own accounts of us claiming that we are the Israelites, right? But what have they done? They've been lying to the whole world this whole time, and they've been lying to us, right? They have the records, they have the receipts, right? But they've been lying and cheating and gaining this kingdom through deception, right? But now that magic that they've had is now starting to fade away, and it no longer is going to cover their asses, man, or their lives. This is Ecclesiastes 12 and 10. Never trust thine enemy, for like as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness. Right? And that's exactly, what the sentiments of you Negro, Latino, Native Indians should be. Those of you who are in your right mind. Because the truth is that you Negro, Latino, Native Indians, you do have enemies. Right? And your enemies are all these other races out on the world, right? These white people, these Chinese, these Japanese, the true Africans, the Syrians, all these people, man, because they are not the Israelites, right? They have all come in one way or another and have kept you under subjection, man, right? Because ultimately they all know who we are, but they've kept us in a state of bondage, so that way they can prosper in this kingdom, right? And ultimately this was the will of the Lord, right, for our punishment. But what's going to happen is now the Lord is now taking these curses upon us, man, and he's returning to us our true heritage, right? Our true story, right? As it tells you in Hosea 1 and 10, that we shall be told that we are the children of the living God, right? That's us, right? We are now waking up to the truth, man. These devils, doesn't matter how many lies they tell, ultimately they're going to be found to be liars. Right? So, with all that, I just want to give all praises to Yahweh, Ba'Shem Yahushai, Ba'Shem Kodash, double honors my teachers, the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace and mercy to the elect. Shalom.